Hey everybody, welcome to Your Unpaid Therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Your Unpaid Therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it.
I'm Valerie Milagros Ortiz.
I don't know. I am your host, Ali Kona. She's away. Brad Ford.
This is Your Unpaid Therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha.
Hello, welcome to Your Unpaid Therapist. I am again Valerie.
Yes, and I'm Ali Kona. I was waiting for Ortiz. That's why there was like an awkward pause. I'm like,
Y'all, and today we're with a childhood friend of mine, Roxana. She's in the room. You can see her. What's up?
Hello. Hey guys.
Rocky is in Florida, and y'all, I've known her since, gosh, how old? Middle school. I was in middle school.
Middle school with my sister.
And you were what, like, how many years younger?
Just one. I was just one. No, two grade wise. It's two grade wise, yeah. But you were in sixth grade with Karina, I think, right? Sixth. So I met you when I was in fourth.
Which is
I was still in elementary. Yeah.
And I was recently home and we were talking about the podcast and you're going to launch your own podcast and you had like all these ideas, yes, that you're going to be doing. And we're having this conversation. And by the way, I live in LA and I go to Florida twice a year if I'm lucky. And then when I can get with my girlfriends, it's like, especially during Christmas time, like, everybody has their families and everybody's so busy. Yeah. And this was kind of a rare time where we got to spend a lot of time together and got to like girl talk and just like catch up and really dive deep. And we had such good conversation when we were talking about the podcast. And you had said something and I remember writing it and you were like, because we were talking about all the things and we're going to get into that. But actually, you know what? I'm going to pause. Before we get into that, let's get into our Never Have I Ever.
yes.
So what we do, we have these cards and we're going to Never Have I Ever it. We want to kind of keep it light and fun and sassy before we get into the deep stuff. So let's do it.
Okay. I just want to point out that I felt the need to stretch and do this so you guys could see that I'm wearing a top.
So if you are only listening and you aren't subscribed to the video,
shame on you.
She just did this body roll that y'all didn't see. So
it's kind of hard in a chair. Okay, cool. So never have I ever, actually I'm going to pick.
Oh, how about have you pick a color?
Oh, okay. There we go. Here we go. Wait.
There's a pink
Hold
one.
on. Let's throw a pink one in here. Just so you have variety of color.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna go with the yellow though.
Okay, she's gonna go yellow. I'm gonna let you read it. Okay.
Do you want to do this?
Okay. Never have I ever worked a 9 to 5. I know.
What you guys have to say about that one?
What's yours?
Because I definitely have.
What has been your favorite 9 to 5 and your like least favorite? You're like, I don't have a favorite.
Probably the only favorite I had was like when I was a kid in high school, and that's because I worked with my best friend. We had a really small group of people. It was at Universal. So, when you're a kid, it's just like I'm getting paid to hang out with my friends, and then you're like in this super cool place. So yeah, Universal, and then after that, I had jobs because they pay you good money. And then,
What was the least favorite?
It's not that it was the least, but I did sales. I did sales for a long time is what I kept doing, but it was just because that's how you get paid the most, And like it was not suited to my personality, and that's what made it hard. But the job itself, it wasn't bad. It was mediocre.
Yeah.
I think mediocre sometimes it's worse because there's no passion, like ugh.
Yeah.
But,
that's true. And the days just are long.
Yes.
They're long.
There's something about if there's passion behind it or you're having fun, it makes everything pleasant. It doesn't even matter. You're just having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you like the people too, like sometimes I've had jobs where maybe it's not like my passion thing, but like I like who I'm working with and the time goes fast and it's just like, man, I'm doing this, whatever the job is. And I was like, but at least I like who I'm with,
I agree.
Cute. At least he cute. I could look at
It's true. What about you?
I've never actually worked like the hours 9 to 5, if that counts. But definitely, yeah, as an artist, like half the time I'm gigging, the other half of the time I'm still working them side jobs.
Yeah.
So, best job, I mean, at the time I didn't like it. I used to work at a place called Rum Jungle in Vegas, which was a nightclub at the Mandalay Bay.
Tell us. Jungle.
So I used to see some things, okay? But, I used to go, and I danced in a cage that was 20 feet suspended in the air, and I used to get pulled up by Tarzan. Woo, he was hot, let me tell you. Okay, so our little cages are suspended in the air, and the club always opened with Tarzan. He'd come out in a loincloth with a stick on fire, and he'd be like, "It's dark in here," and then drum beats, and we'd be dancing. But when he wasn't Tarzan, he was in charge of like hoisting us up into the cage. So I'd be like, "Yes, pull me up." So I was like, outside of my feet hurting, that was a good job. And then Val knows I was a makeup artist for many years, and fuck that, man. Like, it sounds fun, and it was at first, but when you start dealing with women and what they're really insecure about, which is a lot of times face, they tend to be angry or fickle or just like really picky, and you're like, I'm gonna stab you in the eye with this brush. Shut up.
Gosh. Yes.
Yeah. So that's been my working experience.
But did you like doing the makeup? It was just the people? Like, if they could have like been asleep or busy doing something else, would it have been fun for you?
It was the people. It was also knowing that, like, I was, not to sound braggadocious, but I got paid really well, more than most. Yeah. However, it's just something I happen to be good at. And so while I'm happening to be good at this one thing, there's this other thing I really want to be in life, and I'm not that. So that was honestly a source of a lot of my misery, just feeling like a failure because I'm still doing makeup, not doing the thing, mixed in with, some of the people were kind of awful. Yeah, so,
So it was a combination.
Yeah.
So same. No no actual 9 to 5, but like my very first job was selling Cutco cutlery, and it was sales.
Oh wow!
But door to door.
I never knew that.
Listen, let me tell you, I don't work for Cutco, but their knives are the shit. Like their searing scissors are amazing.
I hear sponsorship.
I know, like have it because you have to buy like the little kit to like show the people, and like the scissors cut like around a penny. Like they're amazing, and then they come apart. So cleaning them, like if you're cutting chicken or whatever, super easy. All the knives, like they're just so good. Like I will sell y'all some Cutco today, like lifetime guarantee. So like, I'm dead ass. Like you can send them back; they'll sharpen them for you. Send them back.
Cutco, you're selling me right now. I've never heard of that.
Like, let me tell you, they will be on my registry when I get married one day again. I was like, somebody buy me the knife set of the steak knife. I love that. Well, the funny part about that job, I did it with one of my girlfriends, and I didn't have a car, and like she did. So it's like, you're not supposed to actually do that with your friend because you're essentially like competing against each other, but not really competing against each other. But like, you both can't get a sale, but we didn't care. We were just like, let's go to the house together. It was kind of funny. And then I worked at Universal, but then that was performing, so I guess it doesn't count. But the Cutco cutlery was
that's so funny. I never knew that. I thought that you just did like that. It was acting and it was dancing, and then I was like, oh, Valerie has had the perfect life.
Knives, and it was funny. It was so fun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So I'm gonna let you go. You had a specific pile, and I don't know if that's because it was on purpose.
They fell. It could be whatever. I'm gonna grab this one.
Oh, okay.
It's calling to me. Ooh.
Oh.
That was kind of dramatic. Never have I ever had to call 911.
Oh,
that's like crazy.
Almost. Oh, go ahead. You're never had
No, God, I'm gonna say no. And obviously, if it was a yes, I would have known. So no.
Okay.
I've like been in an area where somebody else called and like there was a situation, but not me. Okay.
I've had two situations. Okay. The second one's funny. The first one is, this happened recently. Val knows. I was at a stoplight and this girl passed out behind the wheel and crashed into me. Like straight just passed out, and I looked behind me and she was like, And I'm like, oh my God. And there was a guy next to her and like pedestrians were walking up trying to wake her up. And he was just kind of there. And I'm like, I called 911 and of course I got put on hold. And so
come on.
Right.
Like I just saw something on Instagram about that. Like somebody had like well, we can go deep into that. 911,
yeah.
cops.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, where's my phone? Hold on. Let me. So I called 911.
What was I saying?
Oh shit. I'll be holding this for the rest of the episode.
No, it's good.
Balance. Okay. So I called 911. I was on hold. And then I asked the guy, I was like, do you want me to send an ambulance? He's like, no. And I thought it was because, ambulances are expensive. And then later on, I realized, I was like, no, it's because she was either drunk or high and didn't want to get in trouble. And I was like, oh, I should have called 911. You asshole.
Right.
Don't drive like that. But the second time, my dog called 911. Legit called 911. I don't know how she did it. My phone was unlocked. It was on the couch. I'm watching TV. She walked across me and my lap. And then I heard 911. How can I help you? And I was like, oh shit.
It's like, of course, when the dog calls, they pick up. Nobody goes on hold. Like, what are the chances?
Yeah, but I was like, I hope they don't arrest me for wasting their time. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
What about you?
That was really crazy. So, no, same thing like Val. It's been more like I saw an accident happen and it was, like someone was going down a ditch. I was with Karina at the time. So we called 911, like we were at the mall and someone was same thing, probably on drugs and was, So nothing personal.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But even those are kind of like, when you even do it for a stranger, it's like,
right.
You're so rattled.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I'm just going to pick one. Okay. Wait. Never have I ever been in a relationship with more than one person. No, I have not. That's a simple no.
Yeah.
No.
Boring. Yeah. Me neither.
You?
No.
No.
There was like a little hesitation.
I think because at the time, like there was I had still already broken up with the person, but like that in between stage where they're still trying to be your friend, but you're like, no, we're not friends. So that's
like Ross and Rachel. We were on a
friend. Right. It was more of that, but no, the lines were not blurred. So
got it.
One of y'all. Okay. Bye.
Yay.
That was our never have I ever. Okay, so back to the thing that I read earlier that you had said when we were we were at Gadi's house and just chatting, and you were like, and we were talking about all the things, right? And relationships, and you were like, you don't have to you can love someone, but you don't have to like them. And I, for whatever reason, that was like, don't, and somebody
me too.
Right now, but I wrote it down at the time because I was just like, that's so true. And we kind of forget that. And that's a whole lesson on like boundaries and like how you can be nice to people and cordial and all the things. And I can have love for you, but I don't need to like you, and you need to be in my space. Do you remember why you said that? Like what? And the other thing is we were coming up with, like if we were going to have like 2 words that like described us, actually, I want to ask this to you. Okay. And so at the time, because my 2 words were divorced and dating. Rocky was grounded in, or I guess it doesn't have to be 2 words, but you were grounded in truth.
Yeah.
You had a couple words, something short to describe like what, and this is kind of putting you on the spot, so you can take your time.
Yeah.
To like where you feel like you are in your life right now.
Ooh.
You can take your time with that.
Are they supposed to be contradictive words? Or they
it can be anything. Just like how you're feeling, like the vibe, like vibe check kind of thing.
And just to give you another idea, for another friend of mine, hers was married and waiting because she's waiting to see if she's doing the other job. If she's waiting to see if she can have a baby, so that was hers. Her, Gadi was at that time blended and complicated.
What if mine's 3 or
no, it could be 3.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like there's a part of me that feels like in the flow.
Okay, I like that.
But sometimes stuck.
I'm stuck. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is so wonderful because I think that one thing, which, dude, like my kid, blows my mind. She has taught me so freaking much. Like that comment that you just mentioned, the I can love you and not like you, like that was her. She's taught me like polarity, like the thought, like what you just said. How can you be, life really is polarity, right? Like in all, like first of all, because our society was created on the foundation of productivity, profit, blah, 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 which we're shifting, after the pandemic, you kind of start seeing more of community, authenticity, the mental health stuff. So I think that learning to hold polarity, right, is so important because that is really how life is. Like you said, you can totally be in the flow and you're seeing like the direction, there's movement, excitement, but then at the same time, it's like, but wait, but over here, maybe this or this particular situation, I feel really stuck in it. And like, that is what life is constantly. Like you're always, I don't want to say that you can't have it all, but it may not be at the same time, if that makes sense.
Well, and the thing about that too is there's perception that some people have it all the time.
Right.
People like that, friends like that. And one of the great things that I love about this podcast, I'm not yet a public figure. Some people might know me, but people do know Val. So I think
some people.
But still, I think it's important because from a distance, it's easy to look at somebody and be like, well, they're on TV and they
or even like you're like, I didn't know you had a yeah, I think, and I mean that 100%, and having these conversations, because it's like we've known each other since we were kids, and I always say like you and your sis and like your whole family, and it's like those are the people who knew you and who've stuck with you through the highs and the lows, to celebrate all the good things, to like be on the other side of the phone and be like, don't give up, you got this, when like all the sad things are going on. But you're right. It's especially now with the socials and stuff, like there's all these highlight reels, and we don't dive into like the real shit, and people get scared to be vulnerable, and it's getting better 100%.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, Roxana, like, because you kind of had your own shift, and like you said, you're going through a lot of things in your life, and then you had that, and I don't know what that thing was for you, but then you started going, following these different accounts and reading these books, and that helped you kind of shift like your mindset and the things that you were attracted to. And what was that for you? Because, and then did you go to therapy? Because when I sent you a voice text, I was like, it's called Your Unpaid Therapist. And I was like, I don't know. Like, did you go to therapy? Have you gone to a therapist? And if, just answer that. Like,
so I'm gonna try to condense it so it doesn't go overboard. I was raised pretty much, so background, immigrant family, we're first generation Americans. It's not, no one tells you directly to your face, but it's very much like prioritizing work, prioritizing material, right? Because we sacrifice so much. I'll be damned that you come to this country and you actually speak English and you make nothing out of yourself, right? So there was a part where we were praised for performance, if that makes sense, right? And then add to that religion, add to that, just the society that you grow up in. And so I played the game. I remember, it's so funny because I talked to my sister. I'm like, I remember really thinking, like, as a woman, I remember clearly I was in high school when I was like, I think I want to date now. And I was like, well, to date a man or a guy, you have to look a certain way. You have to, like, there was a checklist, right? So never did I think like, no, just be yourself and like people are gonna like you. So there was very much a performance piece of me, and my ego was so incredibly fragile. Like I wasn't vulnerable. Like even in my friendships, I played the role of the mama bear, right? But no one can be my mama bear because like you can't see my pain. You can't, like, I just didn't think people were capable of holding space for me. So anyway, so fast forward, therapy's for crazy people. You don't go to therapy. So in my head, I felt like being, we were praised also for being independent because that's a good thing, positive thing. And so I was like an adult, but a child, but I didn't know that, right? But then till I had a child. And so I never intended to be a single parent. I thought I'm going to co-parent and this is going to be great. Like she's going to go 2 weeks with her dad and 2 weeks with me, and life will continue on because I'm just so lovely. And, all kids love me. Like I literally remember when I had my baby shower, people were like, what advice do you have for Roxana? And they're like, we don't know. She's the one we go to. We think she's great. Like kids love her. Animals flock to her, which is really true. Not to toot my own horn, but it happens. Like I used to go to the park to go right, and like birds would just fly and sit next to me.
That's
or like Ian in his school had like an outdoor movie night, and like a little baby, and that had happened a few times, just came to me, and the mom's like, I'm so sorry, she never does that. And so I really was like, I got this. Yeah. Everything. Up to that point, I had purchased a home. I was 23 at the time. So I had purchased a home. I had, I was good. I didn't want to go to college.
Again, you were 23 and you had purchased.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We just got to open that there. So for the people in the back.
But here's the sad part though, Val, like, your blessing can also be a burden when it's not your desire. The reason in my head, and my sister and I talked about this before, we're like, I remember she and I both saying like, okay, we need to buy a house before we're 25. And then like, I'm like,
huh? Like, where did you get that from?
That's what I'm about to tell you. So then me and her talk, we're like, where did that even come from? Like, who thinks that way? And then we're like, oh, mom and dad, because our parents really didn't understand the American system. So when you go back home, when you have your property, like that is something to stand on. You know what I mean? Push come to shove, something happens, there's shelter for your family. And you own your land and stuff, not obviously you can here in America, but taxes. Either way, in my head, it was like, that's an investment, not like what real investments are, like in my head, that was security. And that meant that you did something with yourself. So mind you, the foundation of our childhood to a degree, or our upbringing, was based on abandoning yourself for the sake of what I tell you is acceptable and wonderful, because I want to brag to my friends, right? So anyway, so mind you, had my kid. I like, oh my God. Yeah. I was in like robot mode. Like I like being the person, right, that had it all together. So I had finished school. So I went to school for skincare. I had finished school. I was working 2 jobs. I had my sales job, but then I had like my skincare job. And I mean, you couldn't tell me nothing. I got it going on. I was, I wasn't skinny.
Great.
Good in my body.
Your blemish cream, that powder.
Oh yeah, that I sent you
is a shit. I'm telling you, I still have some. And Gotti was like, how do you still have that? You don't have to use a lot, but you put it on your
body. Yeah.
You have little white spots, girl, but that thing is gone overnight. All right, continue.
Thank you. So with that, right? So like, these are the parts of me that I suppressed. I suppressed the part of me that was creative, that loved research, that liked making up products, like, because again, like, who cares about that, right? Like, no, those are things you have to cultivate, and they're not instant, right? I can't prove that there's worth in that right now, because you could fail at that. So anyways, became a single parent. I was in robot mode, didn't really know I was in robot mode, because now I have to pay a house, right? Now I have a house, I have a car, I have daycare. I never even looked at the cost of daycare, guys. It is a fucking mortgage. I don't know if I can curse, sorry.
That's okay.
It was another mortgage. So now I'm like, oh my God. And then on top of that, this was really the kicker. Like, kids are little bombs. like we don't have rules and regulations, and like they're just like these ball of energies. And so they're gonna cry when they want to cry, they're gonna dance when they want to dance. They're just like, they're beautiful, of course, but they're, to my little perfect world, right? My little robot world that created this life that made me think I was the shit. Oh my God, it came to blow it up. So, excuse me, fast forward. I was in robot mode, didn't even know it. My mom, one of my best friend's mom tapped me on my daughter's birthday and was like, she's like, I need to talk to you. Can we go outside? And I was like, sure. What's going on? And she's like, I hope you don't get offended by this, but I really think you need to go to therapy. And I was like, and she's like, she's so sweet. And I'm so grateful to her because, again, right, therapy is for crazy people. So she's like, Roxanne, I just want to share with you, which I had already known about her, but she had experienced a really big loss when she was younger. And she's like, when that happened, I didn't know what to do. And I too, like, I see you and you're doing what I was doing at that time. And I had to go to therapy to be able to like manage life. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. I thought it was great that, I'm like, well, that's very vulnerable of her to share. And as I kind of started thinking about it, I was like, oh, I guess I am kind of on robot mode. Anyways, go to therapy, talk to the therapist. And I think at the time I didn't really know that I thought I was going crazy. Like literally, like I thought that because like I talked to my friends. So my sister already had Booby, right? Like my nephew. And she was like, yeah, I don't know what you're feeling. I had postpartum, didn't know it was postpartum. Wow. I went to work 6 weeks after, right? Because like, whatever, I got this. And I was just on robot mode. And then while this is happening, by the way, everybody's praising me. Like my sister pulled me over literally on the highway one time and was like, I'm so proud of you, girl. And I remember like her like zooming off and I just started crying. And I was like, so people are happy when I'm falling apart. And so
but they didn't know that.
They did, but they didn't. And so here goes the part where I'm about to get to what led me to this whole depth of looking into like mental health and blah, 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 blah. We live in a society, Val, that what is praised is positivity. We want to see the success, to your point, but no one knows really the process and the work that it takes to get there. So my family, bless their beautiful heart, when I was crying for help, they thought I was joking. They thought like, surely she's fine. She just needs sleep. Surely she just needs a little fun. She needs to go have a girl trip. This was far beyond a girl trip at this point, And so I don't blame them in any way. And at the time, I didn't know who else to go to because while I had created the Superwoman thing, I had no one to turn to.
How did you ask for help? Like what did that look like about Roxana? Were you just straight up
overwhelmed? Like, yeah. Like I'm overwhelmed. For me, I don't know if we can talk about this or not. You guys can edit it out if it's not appropriate, but I was like having suicidal ideation. And so I was like, I think I'm depressed. Like everything was, I think, right? Because like also like when you are living a double life, you don't validate your experience because your experience may not be true. And so I was like, I think I'm depressed. There's moments I don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. Like, and they were like, well, what do you mean? Like I don't, like the other side looks really good. And so mind you, my family didn't understand that. Like they were like, she needs a girl trip. She's tired. Mm-hmm. So I don't blame them. And even to this day, like in my doing my work, I realize when you are raised in trauma and in survival mode, you cannot entertain your pain. You have to keep it positive. You have to, because my God, if you even tap into like, that hurt my feelings, you're going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. So here I'm being vulnerable and they're just like, I don't know what to tell you. And even with my friends, I have a friend that her daughter is exactly 6 months before mine. And then the other one, I think her son was 2 years old. So I'm telling them like, girl, did you feel this when, and none of them did because they had support. They were married or they had their boyfriend or like they had community, right? Like all this stuff that when you're being two-faced, because that's what it was. I didn't have any of that. So little by little, actually a coworker of mine, bless her heart, I'm so grateful to her that she like would check in on me, which by the way, I was like, I don't even know you like that. Like, this is really weird. Like back away. Okay. And thank God that she didn't give a damn. But she was like, Roxana, everything, like I told her, right? I'm like, cause I felt so ashamed. I really was like, I'm going crazy and they're gonna know. Yeah. And she's like, girl, that's normal. And I was like, what do you mean? So she's older than me, right? So she is like, all my friends went through that. And then she shared like even, not that you want worse things to happen to people, but it does let you know like you're not crazy. So that was it. when she said that, it gave me like hope. But then it also, like, as I opened, again, the polarity thing, as I opened up to my feelings, that well put together, has it all, performing 100% at work, 100% here and there, was now falling apart. I couldn't hold both of them at the same time. And so it got to the point that I was just like, girl, I sold my house. I was like, F that. Thank God for the house. It did end up being an investment because that money allowed me to create my other life, right? But I still was lost because I didn't have community. Now I have all these feelings. No one else really, like, they're just like, whatever, that's your problem. Everyone else is living their life. And now I'm a mom and I'm responsible for this little being. So after that happened, boom, sell the house. I ended up moving in with my mom, which was really, again, shameful for me. Okay. Like, this was like, you deep failure. But it has been so incredible because I also think in that, for the sake of being good, we don't know our own ugly, right? We don't know our pain. So what it caused me to do is, as I now was like getting closer to my mom, which I was always close to my parents and my sister, but to see them through different lenses. And it was like, oh boy. Then, it gets so much better. Then I go to this other therapist and because I'm like, I looked at therapy as like, I'm going to fix myself, right? Because I'm broken. That's not the point of therapy. Surprisingly, no one tells us this, but the point of therapy is to bring you back to you. So everything that you hide, it's meant to help you unfold and get closer to your truth. Well, that's going to be a hot mess, depending on the armor that you've built. Right. So after going to her, right, I was going to her twice a week for quite a while. And then she goes on the final session. I remember that it wasn't a final because I chose not to go back. But she's like, you might have Asperger's. And she's like, well, they don't call it Asperger's anymore. It's called ASD. It's being on the spectrum. And she's like, but girls don't show Asperger's or ASD the same way that men do. Oh my freaking God. When she said that, I got home. She's like, you should do a little research. I broke down crying because never in my life had I realized that who I was absolute, like that label, not that, why do we need labels to verify or validate our experience? But apparently we do. That label explained literally my whole entire life. Like from being a kid, like I would be so overwhelmed. I love learning. I'm very autodidactic, but I wasn't just like, if you put me in the play yard to play with kids, like, because there's no purpose in playing, I would be like, what are we doing? Right? So I was a little strange, but I had to hide it because I was ashamed. So if your life is founded on shame, when do you get to show up as you? The world was so scary to me. Right. And so I was so accustomed, again, to playing that double life. So I give you happy, Rocky, but I'm going to hide when she's sad. So isolation. It was show up, isolation. And that was my game, right? Anyways, that was very helpful. She was like, girl, after 6 months of seeing me twice a week for, whatever, for an extended period of time, you're going to be a different person. And you're going to eat through my savings. So hell to the no, no offense to the therapist. But I, again, am a nerd. So I took it upon myself to I just went crazy. Mark Manson, freaking John DeMartini, and just all these different people, Gabor Mate, love him, and really delve deep into trying to learn about the human psyche and what are our needs as a community, our individuality, our authenticity, vulnerability, communication, all these beautiful things that really embrace and allow us to connect to our humanity that I had no idea what they were. While I'm now, because the pandemic hit, right? Now I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm also doing homeschool, right? Which was crazy for me. So
that must have been a journey.
Again, I don't think it's what I would have picked, right? Because I was going to co-parent. But I feel like life set me up in a way that part of me that yearned to be seen, that yearned to be loved, that yearned to be connected to had to come out, because you can't have a child that depends on you for everything. And then you're just, I mean, I guess you can be a butthole to your kid, but it hurts. It does. Like, I remember my daughter had a dream one time. Well, she used to sleep with me when she was little. And she was like, ow, mommy, ow, ow. And I was like, what the hell is that? Well, I used to tap her like this, like if she did something, you know, and I was like, I mean, I'm not hitting her. But it was like, oh my God, like these little beings, we don't know how to raise kids, guys.
No,
like,
no, we're like scratching the
we're
surface.
like feral, right? Because again, society is built on productivity, and if you're to be productive and for me to profit from you, not only do I need you to not to know who you are, but I need you to follow my rules. And so I don't have time to sit down and be like, okay, honey, you know, the cookie, we can't have that right now. No, like I'm gonna do as you're told. End of story. It's very
for you, because we had an episode where we talked to kind of briefly, actually, we want to dive deeper into it, but about what is it, the gentle parenting style?
Yes.
And that's very popular right now. How do you relate your parenting to that? Like, is that like what you're into or into? I don't know.
I've vacillated on the pendulum. I started off very authoritarian, because I was proud. Like, my daughter was like 2 years old and she would put her clothes. She knew how to separate her clothes, color and white. She knew where to put the shoes. She's like, I mean, again, very not proud of it, but in the moment, it fed my ego, you know, because people are like, wow, she's so well behaved. She's terrified. So I went from that to then going into like, oh wait, I'm supposed to serve her. So then I went into like permissive territory, right? Like, just go free, be a child. And then I went to the middle a little bit, which was more like, okay, let me give you boundaries, healthy boundaries, right? And mind you, she was never in danger.
What are the ages of this? So what are the ages of the being more authority? When
probably up until 2. So up until 2, then 3, maybe 3 to 7.
Okay, it was like free
But it
burgers.
was still in between then. It was still like, obviously your kid has to be safe, right? So like you still had a bedtime. Like, it wasn't like rampant, crazy
Sure.
stuff. But like, my daughter did gymnastics, right? I would let her use the back of the couch as her beam so she could practice, you know? And like, that would be a no-no in a regular household. So I felt like, where you're a kid, I don't really care.
Don't be a no.
Right. Like, and I would let her, my daughter was always really creative. Like, I bought her toys and stuff and she would just like use boxes instead. Or like, she would want to, like, she's just creative by nature. That's who she is. And so I was like, okay, let her do her thing. Then it was after I sold my home. Then once I was like living with my mom, then all of a sudden it was more like, I think her criticism was more obvious to me living with her as an adult, that I never knew that I too probably had.
Yeah.
And so I started to dig into that, right? Like, what am I really, because criticism is rooted in fear, and then it's hidden as, but I love you and I want the best for you.
Yes.
Like, well, what is it that you're really trying to do here? When you criticize your daughter, what, instead of talking to her, like, what are you trying to really get her to get? And I was like, okay, cool, got that. Then you need to model it, right? Because I'm learning during all this time about how you need to model to kids. Do you know that we actually don't, like, our brain doesn't get like theory or like, you know, the talk therapy, if you will, until we're like 25? Because our brain is not fully developed.
Yes. Yeah.
I was flabbergasted.
Well, you know, I was to say that the thing with that is, that's a lot of parents don't realize that. So, and this is with the gentle parenting and the conversation I was having with this gentleman, Keston, who does do that I feel like my parents failed at, is parents will often scold their children for things, not realizing that they cannot comprehend. Like, yes, you're a teenager, but you still can't fully understand what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. In theory, yes, because people tell you, imagine what it's like if someone did that to you, but you don't really get it. So when your parent is scolding you for things, it just turns onto you as like, I'm a bad person. What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. Blasey, blasey, blasey. And it just
which I think is the wound that most of us have. That's why we feel inadequate. That's why we feel not enough. And here's the truth. Someone did it to them, right? Someone did it to them. They did it to us because, well, you need to survive in the world. So what am I going to let you do? Run amok? Like, no, like, how are you going to hold a job? How are you going to? So again, the guys here is that it's love, right?
Right. Yeah. But I want to pause though, because I do feel, and I'm going to be play devil's advocate. I do feel that 100% of this gentle parenting, some of it is and I don't even know the words for it.
Can you give me an example of what you're referring to?
When you were saying that when you were doing the authoritative stuff and, oh, she's so well behaved or whatever. And and you made a voice for the parent who was like, oh, like, she did that out of fear. But was it out of fear because of how it was presented to her? Children
it is.
Are innately organized or don't like dirt on their hands or who, you know what I mean? So I just don't want, I think there's a healthy balance with that whole gentle parenting thing. Like, I still think it's super valuable to teach your kids stuff like that and for them to have pride of like, I did this and like, yes, my stuff is organized, because though you need that for your future and you need that as an adult and a human. So I know maybe the way you presented it to her gave her fear, but I think that was a really good thing you taught your kid at a young age, because, and we've talked about this, I have a lot of friends who have children and I can't wait to be a mom and I love kids, but
their house is a tornado.
It's a hot fucking mess.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is happening? And then it's like this gentle parenting and I was like, okay, like, cool. But also,
you can like, do it in a way. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, there's positive reinforcement, right? So it's like you were saying, it's almost like, look, I love animals, so to me, it's not an insult, but it's like a puppy, right? Like, you can either give the dog a biscuit and he'll be like, yeah, I'll sit. Or you can whack the shit out of him and they're doing it out of fear. So there's, two different ways.
Right. And whatever I always say this to anyone, always take anything from anyone, really. Like, I feel every person is they are the CEO of their life, right? So we're all little companies and you're the boss of your life. So I do think, and first of all, I also feel like your kid chooses you. Right? Like in the grand scheme of life, this is about expansion. Mm-hmm. And so everything in life is relational and your child chooses you for a reason. Right? Mm-hmm. And so to your point, gentle parenting to me is not, I think that's more permissive that you're looking into, right? Because gentle parenting says,
I guess some people have called it gentle parenting.
Right, but they're not doing gentle parenting. They're doing permissive. So that's what permissive is, when the kid runs the house, okay? Mm-hmm. Gentle parenting is when the parent has the vision and holds boundaries, has expectations, but does not negate your humanity. Because that is what the authoritarian, for me, parenting, I think gentle parenting honestly is like authoritarian with permissive, but like humanity involved in it, because you have some like intelligence, right? Because if I would have treated my daughter right, really kind in the process and been patient with her, and sometimes it was like, she used to be, and she still is, very organized kid. She did feel happy to be like, look, I left my shoes there, and like, now we know where shoes are when we go out the house. So like that part of it wasn't bad for me, and I am accountable. I think that has also been a game changer, is like, if you're not ready for radical accountability, if you're still in blaming stage, which I understand too, because I think when you need empathy and validation, you get stuck in the like, the victim mentality or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But if you can just, again, like, I don't know, do people forget what it was like to be a kid? Because for me, I feel like that saved me a little bit, because I very much remember, but I also realized I was performing. So when I realized that, I'm like, ooh, you're like, I know when I perform, I was like acutely aware of that. Mm-hmm. It helped me to be like, take it back. Now, my humanity, in order to perform that way, my humanity got lost. So I had to almost relearn how to be human. And I'm still learning now. Vulnerability, I didn't know what the hell that was. Right. And so I'm grateful for that process, because learning how to gentle parent, I automatically started gentle parenting myself. Because if I'm being compassionate and kind to my kid, when I make a screw up where I normally would have been like, you should have known better, you should have done blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, oh, honey, it's okay. Look at you trying. Okay. Like, I talk to myself. People laugh all the time, but I'll be cooking, because I really detest cooking. And I'll be in there like, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to go in, and like, anyone that walked in my house would probably think I'm a loony, but let me tell you, I feel great. So think what you want. And so anyways, along the path, I don't know how much you knew or not, Valerie, that Karina and I, my sister, we've never really gotten along.
Yeah.
Polar opposites. She's super fun and light and airy and cool and beautiful. And I was like really deep. And like, she would be like, Roxana, you intimidate people. You need to, like, calm it down. And yeah, like going through this process of gentle parenting my kid. Now I'm indirectly, as a result, reclaiming my humanity. I'm learning all these different things. I now realize, okay, how can I approach people through the lens of curiosity?
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of what I do. Even with my kid, like, if I think, like, let's say she leaves a towel on the floor and she knows she's not supposed to do that. My first instinct, right, from my body, the body keeps the score. I want to be like, you know better. Like, come pick this up. What's your problem? But then I'll stop and I'm like, this is also what love is to me a little bit, besides accepting someone, is thinking the best of them, right? And being like, hey, I know you know to put away the towel, but I see it's on the floor. Like, what happened? Like, is everything okay? Can I help you with something? Oh, mom, yeah, and then I'm open to hearing her instead of scolding her. And then no matter what she says, now we're in a battle of who's right and who's wrong. I'm not interested in war. I'm interested in relationship. I'm interested in holding grace for who you are. I'm interested in loving you when you are unlovable, right? Like, my daughter has broken down before where she's like, why are you hugging me? You shouldn't be hugging me. And I'm just like, because you're worthy of love at all times. And I will be here in anything that you need to break down. Mommy got you.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. I can hold space for all of you.
I love what you said earlier about, in the process of learning how to gentle parent your child, you learned how to gentle parent yourself. And I don't know if you, and I want to like say that out loud, because people talk about the, like, going back to, and actually you'll probably say this better than I will, but like your inner child and all that, and talking to that part of you, and just hearing you say that makes so much sense on how you kind of talking back to baby Roxana and validating all those feelings and all those fears that she had, and allowing baby Roxana to be vulnerable is now helping you essentially, obviously with parenting, but even as an adult. And that's very hard to do. Like, and I just applaud you on being able to go through all those journeys and those different processes and choose that, because I think that's the hardest part for people, to see yourself and face those wounds or face those things that are just like, oh, that part's ugly, like, oh, and then want to just be better.
Yeah. I actually have a question for you. Yeah. I'm an only child, and I always wanted to have a sibling, so I had somebody to talk to because of some of the tumultuous things I had in my home. However, I've had this conversation with someone else where no two people experience a situation the same, because you just have two different brains, right? So between you and your sister,
and y'all have talked about this.
Yeah. And that's why I want to say, like, what kind of conversations have you had about, because maybe you perceived mom and dad as scary, authoritative, and mean, and she perceived them, and that's why her personality might be a little bit more like let loose and be airy, and they were just doing their job, So have you guys ever had that conversation?
We did. So when I was like obsessed with the therapy thing, I was like, we need to go to therapy. Let's go to therapy. And she, I get it now. I think at the time she didn't know either. She would always kind of put it off, right? My sister's really intuitive. It's very interesting. I think that again, this is not to blame anyone, but we grew up, there was, foundation was manipulation and gaslighting, right? In the most loving way possible, but that's what the foundation was. So we had our own pain. And I think that once we opened up the dialogue to be like, well, what did you experience mom and dad as? And that's really what it was. And then as she told me her version, right? And I told her mine, we were both like, oh God, it was like alternate reality.
Yeah.
Because it really actually was a little bit of the opposite. What happened is that my sister was not the performer. Like, you're not going to manipulate her. Like, she's like, this is who I am. I like to talk. I'm curious, but I like to keep it light and airy and fun. And my family was more rule oriented, right? They were more like performance and religion. And so for me, that was easier for me to understand, because it was very like, oh, if I do this for mommy and daddy, then I get that. That made sense. And then I was also really fucking lonely. So my sister was able to connect with kids. This goes where the ASD diagnosis was very helpful for me, because it's not like I didn't have friends, but I just didn't connect on a kid level. I actually connected with adults a lot better than I did children. But I learned that for adults to connect with them, you got to give them what they want. And then they'll see you. And so my sister had kids. That allowed her to be like, cool, my family's not ever going to give me what I need, but my friends do. So she kind of went down that path, right? Like prioritizing her friends. And, she had her share of like, figure it out yourself. That was painful too. But I don't think it came at it where she had to maybe discover and really validate herself. I don't think it came at the price of like feeling like you don't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So because I felt that I didn't fit in, it was like this beautiful box that someone has curated just for me. I think I can play that game. Let me get myself in there.
Can I ask you, just for anybody who else can speak English, anybody else who might be listening, what are some of the traits that might be Asperger's or ASD that you're like, oh, okay, that could be me too?
So dysregulation, which I think a lot of us have it, but even as a kid, you're extremely sensitive, right? So I remember napping a lot when I was a kid, because I would just be overwhelmed by regular daily stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I was constantly being told, you're so lazy, right? Like, you're just lazy. You're not, because no one else is tired, but I'm exhausted because my brain is essentially always on go. Mm-hmm. I loved pretend. I loved, the library. I could also hold, like, my logic, ironically enough, was very developed, that I could understand, like, I didn't really understand like social cues, if that makes sense, very well, but I was really adept at observing. And so my logic it was like a puzzle. Like, I approached life through like everything was a puzzle. So social cues really like I never understood. I still struggle with this, but I get it because someone explained it to me. Like, when people are like, hey, how are you doing? Why are we asking people how they're doing when we don't really care? Because if someone were to really be like, actually, I had a horrible day, they're like, whoa, hold up there. And it's like, oh, it's just supposed to be to greet them. So again, just kind of the social stuff was really off for me. That getting exhausted as a kid. Kids usually look forward to playing. For me, that was like petrifying, because I'm like, can I get a book to read instead? What else?
What about now as an adult?
Oh, I still struggle with it.
Well, like, what are the traits? The traits that would be.
I think it's still very similar. It's very similar, which has been hard as a single parent, because like regular things, right, that would energize a parent, like for me, they exhaust me. So I have to really everything. And again, very grateful still for my kid, because everything for us is a negotiation. So we start off with like, there's a theory that someone I followed, I can't remember their name at the moment, but it's called spoon theory, right? That people with ASD have a limited or a certain amount of spoons they start their day with. And no matter what they do, like for example, exercise, right? Like exercise energizes you. It wears me down. Like I require so much downtime just to like function as a regular person. So my daughter and I will talk about this is how I learn about values, wants, and needs. What are our core values, right? What are the things that are extra? If we get to them, that's great, but that's not really very important. And we figure out, how do we create a win-win in our life? So you're getting your playtime, you're getting your quality time, I'm getting my alone time. And that's very helpful because growing up, it was never like that. And so, again, even when I told my sister about it, right, my family, again, not their fault, but they were like, well, I don't know, like this ASD thing you're talking about, like, it just sounds like you're trying to use it as an excuse to not have to do things, right? And then part of, maybe because I was gaslit a lot as a kid, like as I'm learning about therapy, mental health, I now can hold space. It's my gray space, I call it, for my reality, my truth, and then their reality and their truth, because they don't know vulnerability. So really what she wanted to say, instead of like, oh, you're using as that, is, I just wish I could play with you. I wish we could have fun together. And it hurts me that as my sister, I don't get to have that experience with you. And I wish there wasn't some other reason why, another excuse as to why you can't be with me and have fun with me. Because it hurt me that I too didn't get to have the sister that I wanted to have fun with. So now when she says mean things, what I perceive as mean, I'm like, oh, you don't know how to be vulnerable. That's okay. And I get it. It's true. It is painful. Because we grew up like yourself, right? You think like, oh, if you have a sibling, like it's going to be great. We both felt that we were alone.
Yeah.
And so now I can hold space for both. So now instead of me being offended, I'm like, oh, I see what you really mean. I can hold space for her pain and then try my best, which is still difficult because we are very, different. Try my best to show up in ways that feel good to me. I never understood this concept that you get to show up for people in ways that feel good to you and in ways that they need as well, right? Like we're meant to be used, but not abused. Like it should be reciprocity. However, it's okay to live in reality and be like, maybe I can show up for her emotionally, right? But that's not a priority for her. A priority for her may be like fun and relaxation.
Right.
And that's okay. That means that I am not going to have a lot of her time. And where before I would be so wounded by that, because I'm like, why don't you see me and love me? I just love you so much, sister. That's like, it's okay. Because that love that you have and who you are, Roxana, someone else needs that. So again, holding space for the reality of, I think I was trying to love everyone and it's manipulative. I didn't know that. I was trying to love their inner child so that then they could be like, oh, I'm safe. I'm great. I can love you too, Roxana. But I didn't know I was doing that. So we've had so many arguments about this where I would like show up for her, help her with her son and all this stuff. Again, that's not a value to her because she has community. So I'm like, well, why don't you appreciate it? Well, because it's manipulative, first of all, right? But also because that's not what she needs. What she needs is for her sister to go on a trip to Paris with her and have fun and stop being, so psychological. So yeah.
What's so interesting about all of that, again, I go back to just like the journey. I'm curious as to how long, and obviously we're always growing and we're always learning and getting better, whatever better is to each of us. But how long do you think it's been since that like initial aha moment to where you are now with like being able to see yourself in a different way? And one of the things, and you said it the last time we talked when we were home, and I've actually, the curiosity thing I love, and I'm a curious person and I love that about you. But when you were saying, and this is difficult for me, the being able to, when somebody is you're not really seeing eye to eye, being able to be like, oh, that's okay. You're just having trouble being vulnerable. That's hard.
Thank you for that, because I'm like, my feelings are hurt. Like, I just don't understand. You don't want to go to a hike with me? Like, why? It's nature. It's outdoors. Like, I have this with my person where he's like, my feet hurt. I was standing all day. I know, but it's me. Like, you should want to spend time with me, and nature is healthy.
Yeah.
I don't love nature the way you do.
And I love that. I feel jealous about you with that, Allie, because I honestly wish that that's another thing when we were talking about the ASD. Thank you bringing that up. It's almost like we feel things intensely, but we resort to logic. So like intensely, I could feel something, but then my logic is like, oh, but you don't feel that. So that's okay. Like I can't, it's really weird. It's almost like I can't feel my feelings strong enough if they're invading in your personal space. If my reality affects your reality, then, and I don't know, is it because I need connection? So I like, again, because I was lonely for so long, like, do I have to I don't know, guys. I don't know. Like, do I psychologically go there because I'm like, the pain of being separate is too big? I don't know. What I do know is that I decided, I'm like, with relationships, you either want a relationship, you either want to be right, or you want to be in a relationship, and you need to pick one.
Yeah. And that part's so hard, but I love that you and Karina got to that point. And then, like you said, you're still obviously different and stuff like that. But I love to see that the evolution of your relationship, the evolution of any relationship, and obviously siblings and family is, and friendships too. Like it's all so difficult, right? Because we're all going through so much stuff, but I've loved to see that because it's cool, and cool feels like such
and it's so funny that you say that too, because opposites attract. Like I, as a friend, like if I was next to Alicona, I would want to be her friend because she's so in tune with her feelings. And the fact that you, like, let's say you and I are friends and you're like, Rock, let's go hiking. And I'm like, no, my feet hurt. And the fact that your response would be that, like, and my daughter's like that. That's why I love her. Oh my gosh, she's so awesome. She will straight up tell me, like, I don't like when you talk to me like that, but I really wanted to go to do that. And that really disappointed me. Like, again, because it's what I lack, I have so much admiration. Like, I'm like, oh my God, the way that you can just be with yourself and your feelings, that's so beautiful. Like, I'm so jealous. Yeah. Like, I'm like, may I one day be able to be like that? Because for me, I feel like what I did was, like, I love TV because those were my friends growing up. Yeah. And like, I lived vicariously through characters because I couldn't be in my feelings. I didn't know how to express it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's beautiful how you can be that, like, I'm so jealous. So beautiful.
A lot of us, like, it's like the curse with tapping into your emotions. It's helpful for our job.
But it's funny too, because it's like you cry, so you like, I'll be telling Val something about something that happened to me, and she gets watery eyed. I'm like, what happened to me?
I know, but
that's empathy, right? And so that's the same thing. Like, I remember as a little kid, right? Because we were in church and everything. Like, I was sensitive, I was empathetic. I still was kind of bold because I didn't really know how to lie very well, if that makes sense. Like, I would just be like, that doesn't make sense, or that, and that I would pray, like, God, please take away love from my heart. Because for me, that's probably, again, the like and the love. When I know your soul, and I'm already, like, by nature, I don't really care not to say that I don't care what you do, because that's really cool, but I want to know about you. Tell me your story. Tell me about your dreams. That is how I like to connect with people. Yep. And that's very scary for most people. So, like, small talk, oh my God, please no small talk.
Yeah.
Even though now I respect small talk because I understand its purpose. I didn't before, right? And so, again, the construct of how we connect as a society, which is like, oh, I do this, or here's my, Lola, like, that never made sense for me because I'm like a grandma in my heart. And so when I was little, being the mama bear, I wanted to know your story. I wanted to be there with you. I too, like yourself, Val. I mean, my daughter laughs at me now. She's like, Mom, really? Like, she'll look over. I will cry I used to cry watching the news. And so I was just so burdened, right, by the pain that existed in the world without understanding that we're like, Earth is also a school. So we're all here to grow, to expand, to develop, and understanding that how you do that is by being actually how you are, Alicona, tapping into your truth, because otherwise you're mismanaging your energy. Mm-hmm. Can I love everyone, which is really accepting them? That's what real love is. And not like them? Like that feels a lot better than, oh my God, the burden of like having to carry everybody's load. No, that's not healthy.
And I think it's really important to say that in the approach of I love you, I don't have to like you, is the boundary setting has to be very prominent, very bold, very clear in relationships. Because people like you know, or, you know, who feel hard and deep, you know, sometimes those people get taken advantage of by the people who can see that in them.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, tricky, because those people who are very nice and giving all the time and empathetic and loving and understanding and I see you and I hear you, okay, you know, that's cool, I get it, you're having a hard time being vulnerable or whatever. And even you too, Roxana, you people like, and because I feel like I'm a little more like fuck that shit, because of my experience at this point in my life. At Kona, I'll be like, girl, okay, yes, your heart is fucking huge, and I love that you're so empathetic, and I love that you're so forgiving, but also like fuck them, you know?
Yeah, but I think, and I don't know if maybe it's
how do you get that balance, you know? That's tricky.
Like I went from being you when I was younger, right? Like very, very much like, oh no nonsense, right?
I wasn't that when I was younger. I was people.
Well, I was the opposite then. So when I was younger, I was very no nonsense. And then I became more of a people pleaser, right? Because I was like, oh, I clearly am doing everything wrong. This is not right. And then, but this is really ironic. The person that I came to realize, I was friends with this person for years, and having a conversation one time, so grateful to them, because they said to me, they were like, you know, people that, I'm sure it wasn't his words, it's someone else's out there, but people that have a big heart have to have boundaries and have to have clarity in what they want and need, because if not, they become doormats. Because if you're a giver, rarely does a taker stop when he's benefiting from you, right?
Yeah.
And so it was funny because he was one of the people that was kind of, you know, that situation. Again, I like, everything's like a puzzle. Very much like, think of like Elementary, if you guys ever saw that show. The guy that does Sherlock Holmes, you know?
Yeah.
So I look at everything from multiple perspectives, which is also why I like film, because I like seeing like, how did the director figure the angles and all that. But anyways, going off a tangent. So the point is that I'm so grateful, because I don't think part of me not validating my experience, right? So like the fact that you can tap into like how you feel, like that's so fucking beautiful, because now with you knowing what you feel, you know what you need, what you value, and what you don't want.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you get to be like, I can accept someone that's over there that's maybe a little, you know, abrasive in their approach, but that's not for me. What I like is empathy and kindness. So I can still accept, AKA love that person. You on fire, here's a little water, baby. But I don't have to go and save you, or I don't have to show up for you in the way that, because there may be, even to people, you know, that are very empathetic, there may be a little bit of like, I think pain makes you empathetic. And so you think to yourself like, shit, I know what it feels like to be abandoned. I know what it feels like to be alone. I want to help, right? We're helpers. We're givers. Givers need givers pouring back in. And if someone can't give, that's okay. That's their journey. They're on another journey, but you got to know when to unsubscribe.
Yeah,
subscribe to us, you know. Yes. Therapist. So I think learning that, right, was so big, because I never understood, again, being raised immigrant and Christian and all this, like it was always about giving. Give first. Give endlessly. Well, I'm not the endless well. That's Jesus. You can go find, you know, whomever you like.
Right.
I now get to be very clear about what I need in my life. I didn't have that before.
I'm still learning that. And it's funny you say like, and I don't know how much I had told you, but I had reconnected with somebody that I knew in the past that did screw me over. And it was somebody I was romantically involved with. And he's on his journey of discovery of, I was acting out of trauma and I need to fix myself.
Yeah.
And so, but one of the things he had said to me, he was like, first of all, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't love you the way you deserve to be loved. But I was busy trying to get love from everybody else because no matter what I did, my cup couldn't get full. So I was just constantly trying to take from people to feel something.
Yes.
But he was like, with you, and we're candid because it's in the past and it's fine. I have love for him. But he was like, it was just easy to take from you. He's like, you didn't have boundaries. And I said, I know, because I was insecure and I needed love. So I allowed people to do whatever and stick around because you were giving me attention. You made me feel like I was important and the only girl in the world. And he was like, yeah, but that was my superpower. I knew how to do that to women to get what I needed from them. And you were giving me what I needed, which is to feel special and important. And I saw it and I took advantage of you and I knew I was doing it. And now as an adult, I am so sorry. But it's crazy to have somebody sit there and tell you to your face,
wow,
easy, because I knew you didn't have any boundaries.
Right. Well, first of all, that's amazing that he even was able to say that and come back, right? Because he could have moved on.
Yeah.
He could have moved on and been like, oh, well, it is what it is. It's in the past. But that opportunity for growth for yourself too. And honestly, like, I think that's a lot of us. Like because again, we were not raised with our humanity in mind. That was not the first thing in our parents' thought process. It was survival, or at least let my child make something of themselves in this world. We all do it. And again, polarity. So if you are empty, I'm going to go to someone that looks like they have a full cup. But really, we're also empty a little bit because we're lonely. We just want to love on you. Please don't leave me. Please don't abandon me. Yes. Like the anxious person is going to overgive and then get resentful. And then the avoidant doesn't want to like receive, even because then what if I get so used to it and then it's gone?
Yeah.
And so understanding all of that, right? Like it's so helpful for where are my areas of opportunity? And then where can I be honest with myself? Let me tell you something with feminism. Like I grew up in the era of, Miss Independent, Beyonce, whoop, whoop. And my mom always telling us like, don't you depend on a man. But then like, where's there room maybe for people that I hate to admit it, but maybe deep down, like maybe I just wanted partnership and I did want to be married and maybe my husband handles the household, but I love him and respect him and care for him and he pours into me and I pour into him. And I just have my little online business and then I get to have fun and pour into my community and have animals on a farm like that. I think what we should be advocating for, even though I think this is really what they meant to advocate for, it's not this, superwoman, woo, woo. That's great if that's who you are, more power to you. But really about truth. Can you connect with who am I? What makes me feel happy? And in what ways do I want to contribute in this life?
Right.
Who I am, which is being able to be empathetic, to have someone break down very much like yourself. I love being a cheerleader. I love to see people win. Like, oh my God, it just excites me. My daughter makes fun of me because like there'll be people on TV that won and I'm like, whoa, get it, girl. She's like, you don't know them, Mom. I'm like, but I do in my heart.
Yeah.
Like there's a place for that, especially in the world where it stands today. But if the world tells you that doesn't matter, then now I'm puppeting in another way to be seen because nobody cares about the cheerleader or the moms of the world, but they all matter. We all matter in our own truth, whether that's because I want to be a fucking boss and, whatever chick, or I want to be a great stay-at-home mom that has a soft, gentle life.
Right.
There is no right or wrong. There's just what's your truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you access your truth.
Yeah, and be okay with that and not feel like it isn't enough, for somebody else's standards.
Right.
Yeah, I am so thankful for your time and your vulnerability with us. You were saying something. We always we're way over our time, but I was just like, this is gonna be a double episode.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've heard this, but I love this quote. I've like put it on my Instagram before, but it's maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you. And I freaking love that. And it's not even the quote that I had picked out for our episode. I had something else picked out. And then as we were talking, you might have seen me, y'all. Yeah. Don't think I was being rude, y'all. I was trying to find this quote. And it's so perfect for our conversation and for everything that I do really feel like is life. It's like unbecoming all those attachments and those labels and all that shit that religion, our parents, society has put upon us. Yeah. So
that is what it is. I think that's what mental health is about. I think it's about learning. I think the more we can access our truth, as painful as it can be, right? But do it in a healthy way with boundaries and understanding how to vulnerably communicate. I think when you start there, then you can build healthy community. And I think sometimes we were raised the opposite, where it's like, think of the collective, right? Because you don't want to be selfish. No, like it's actually manipulative to do it the other way around. It's healthy to be grounded and centered in yourself. So then you know, how do I want to contribute and show up in society and build those communities that are really based on who you are.
Yep. I love
Well, you gotta say thank you. I mean, I feel like you've shared so much.
I love you. I want to give you a big old hug. Ali, could you remind me of my daughter? Just love you. I love it. Oh my God. So beautiful.
But it's so funny because like usually I am a chatty Cathy. Like I talk a lot on this podcast, but for the most part, I've been like,
I told her, she was like, she's like, because I've talked about obviously Karina and you or whatever. And I was like, don't worry. I was like, we've had all these conversations and I've obviously been like, I've just been wanting you on the podcast because you obviously are just great to talk to you, great conversation, and obviously so much insight. And I saw like, now, like this is why I was like,
well, because I'm like, what are we talking about? Because I knew about your sister. And then she's like, no, Roxana, she's done this. And I was like, I don't know anything. Okay.
And I was
like, go with it. Yeah.
I was like, we're going to go with it.
It has been so wonderful. Hopefully I can get out to California one of these days. I would you ladies.
And when you do your show, we want to be on your show.
Yes.
I want to have you back. I want to, because there's definitely different topics that I would want to like fine tune and be a little bit more specific with and dive deep with you in other episodes. But this was such a good umbrella, a good introduction to Roxana for everybody who's listening and or watching. So we'll have her back on. And if, and if you have any thoughts on something like, you know what, I want to dive a bit deeper into this. She's an amazing singer too, by the way, y'all. We didn't even touch. Yes, she can sing.
Wait, hold on. Because sometimes when I do the intros, I'll rap and I'll sing and it's very bad. So I'm gonna let you do our outro.
Oh, that's
don't put me on the spot. Don't put
like your unpaid therapist.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Guys, I'm not there yet, but hold on. I'm going to try. Okay. Cause this is okay. This is diving into the deep end.
Yes.
So what are we doing? So Valerie, no, I'm scared.
You don't have to do
it.
You're out there. Did you hear me sing? I mean, come on now.
Yeah. But now I'm like,
anything could be better than that.
I don't know. No, I think Ali has to take. Ali Kona's gonna take this one because, guys, I wasn't ready. I'm not ready.
Adios, and like your beautiful voice.
Adios. I love you, girls. I'm so glad that I was able to meet you. I know I have a lot to talk about when it comes to the mental health space. So hopefully, I will get my podcast up and rolling, and I would love to talk to you guys and come on there as well to talk about like your background, like going deeper. I love that you mentioned that you were an only child. Val's experience, as much as I've known you, like I didn't know you were doing sales, door-to-door sales. That's freaking exciting.
Like who goes door-to-door selling knives? Like now that would never happen. Like you want to buy a knife? Like what the hell?
That's amazing. But I would love to get, deeper just because I think that like our story matters, like when we're able to share those parts of ourselves, it just allows someone else to, to be like, wow, I'm not alone. Yeah. That's what this journey is all about. Like, we're not alone in this. We're in it together.
Of this podcast is like bringing light to these kind of conversations, to real life experiences, to women bonding and men. We have a couple men come on the podcast. Yeah. Shout out to y'all too. But so thank you. I love you. Adios.
She's so fun. I need some of that energy. Oh my God, I love it. Bye, girls.
Bye. Love you. Bye.